This is Alissa.
This is Caroline.
And this is Chelsea. Welcome to Med Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
This podcast is an engaging look at the lives of and surrounding medical surgical nurses.
We're proud medical surgical nurses, just like you, sharing our stories, insights, and experiences to support you in your nursing journey. Unfortunately, Evie couldn't join us today, but we will carry on and do the best we can. How's everyone doing? What's new with everyone now that we are officially in our third year of Med Surg Moments?
I guess the most exciting thing that happened to me today, because I worked last night, so I've been asleep for most of the day, is that when I opened up my door, my packages from Amazon were there. So my vitamins, vitamin B12 and woman's multi-daily vitamin was there, and my Apple Pen and keyboard for my iPad Pro were there. So that's the most.
You gotta love a delivery from Amazon. Do you ever play the game where the boxes come and you think, now what did I order?
That's always
I do that all the time.
Isn't it fun when you forget what you've ordered, and so it's like a little surprise?
Yes, it's like Christmas every day. Like Christmas every day. Yes,
absolutely.
Indeed. That's funny.
That is hilarious. I'm like, I just had like a really busy day at work. I was in Zoom meetings from 8:45 until 4:00. Like, they're good and they're productive, and it's just a lot of work, and I'm training new educators and I'm developing new checklists and I'm on a lot of committees. And so it's a lot of brain work. You get home and you feel dead. So very, very busy today. I think I thought about school for about 20 seconds this morning. And then I was like, well, and there we go. That was it. That was my doing schoolwork. I thought about it.
Yeah. Since the beginning of the year for me, my feet haven't touched the ground. We hit the ground running with COVID vaccination clinics, which have been fabulous, but they're just so time consuming. We haven't got clinics on every corner, so there's traveling involved, and it makes for a long, long day. And just like you, Alissa, the Zoom meetings, it's like a podcast is a great medium to be able to connect with people. But at the end of the day, it just exhausts me. I don't hear very well. I've told you that story along the way. And so after so many hours of wearing headphones and trying to listen and focus on everything, I just want to be face to face with someone and see your mouth so I can hear what you're saying.
Exactly.
And then our company is famous for New Year, new initiatives. And at the moment, so many of our leaders are just struggling to keep their floors staffed and keep their nurses safe and keep nurses engaged. And so we had to kind of regroup on the three initiatives that we wanted to get out by the end of the first quarter and bring it down to one and do that well. So I hear you all. It's definitely been a wild start to the year for sure.
I think we're getting to that point now. We've been doing this for a year, like Zoom meetings for a year, no staff for a year, uncertainty for a year. Mm-hmm. That really starts to weigh down on you. And that's kind of why I'm like outside of work. It's whatever makes me happy. Yep. Favorite dessert? Check. Giving myself a little bit of a pass. Going to go ahead and set up that home office, video games on deck, whatever brings you joy outside of work. You just really have to do it. Yep. It's really the only thing that keeps you sane when you're facing so many obstacles that we do.
I saw a parody on YouTube. I think it was James Corden saying, "This month has been a really long year."
Yep.
And if we're thinking that now at the start of the year, what do we have to look forward to? We have to look forward to being optimistic and getting those vaccines out and keeping everybody safe and seeing a dent in that curve. It's got to happen. It absolutely has to happen. It really does. And also supporting our nurses, encouraging our nurses with something like perhaps certification. How about that for a transitioning conversation? But seriously, ladies, that does bring us nicely to our topic today. The Academy of Medical Surgical Nursing obviously supports, quite rightly, specialty certification. So how do you get certified? And equally important, how do you stay certified? And we're going to let our listeners hear from Alissa right now because you recently became a certified medical surgical RN. tell us about the process. What was your experience like?
Yeah, I did just get my certification. It's actually really easy. If you go to amsn.org, there's a link at the top that says certification. And when you go there, it has all the information you need with your eligibility requirements and a link to apply, which will take you over to the MSNCB website where you can go in and apply. Once you get your clearance for testing, then it gives you all of your testing information on setting it up in your state and making your appointment, stuff like that. Eligibility requirements are really simple. If you've been a med surg nurse for 2 years, go for it. I believe it's 2 years and having worked 2,000 hours or something. I don't remember exactly because I've been a nurse for over a decade. So I knew I qualified. I didn't have to worry about that part. But you pay your fees and you go take your tests. If you want to study for it before you take your med surg certification, there were tons of study materials that were available that you could utilize from the website. You could purchase the recorded conference lectures. I believe Caroline is the star of, because I listened to the preview. They also have links to just test questions. So if you want to just take test questions and get comfortable with the testing method, you can purchase testing questions. I think there's a practice test that you can look at to see if you're comfortable enough. So it goes over the domains that you'll be tested on so that you have an idea of what you're getting up against. For me, when I went in and took the test, I felt nervous, of course, because anytime I'm going to test, I'm nervous. I want to make sure I'm going to pass. But once I got in there, I felt really comfortable. And someone had told me, and I don't know if it's accurate, but someone had told me that the test was written as if you had been a nurse for at least 2 years. If you'd been a nurse for 2 years in a med surg setting, you should be able to pass it. And I felt like that was very accurate because the test, the level of difficulty on the test, I felt like that was appropriate as I was taking it. So I passed it. I felt really great about it. Now I'm certified and I think everyone should do it.
One thing I would add about becoming certified is to make sure that you ask your unit manager or maybe your unit education resource person about the unit purchasing study materials from AMSN. So one, that you'll have one set on the unit so people can sign it out, people can share, etc. So that was a great resource for me when I was studying for my AMSN certification that I got back in 2018, I believe it was.
That's awesome. And the other thing that I would say is not only ask for study materials, but some organizations do support certification. And so they may either offer to fund your testing or reimburse you after you have passed. That's something that we do at our organization if you are taking a certification test in your area of specialty. So I actually had a choice if I wanted my organization to cover this test or not, because Med Surg is the area of specialty that I cover, but I am also an educator. So getting my nursing professional development certification is also important. But I applied for and got a grant from AMSN to get my certification. And so that is also an option. If your organization does not support or have the funds to help you get your certification, apply for a grant with AMSN. They give out several. There's 2 grant seasons a year, I believe. It's like a summer and winter season or something. Check the website. Don't quote me on that. But AMSN can help you if your unit cannot. So definitely work on that. It's worth it. They're an amazing organization and they will support you.
Being a member has its advantages. If you're not lucky enough to get a scholarship and you do have to pay yourself, being a member affords you a considerable discount on the exam. So there are lots of opportunities to get the funding for it. So just to kind of bring together everything that you just mentioned, ladies, first of all, you have to have your RN license, of course, in the United States, its territories, or in Canada, or have a license from another country, but be credentialed in the United States. 2 years, that's important. I want to emphasize that because I get a lot of enthusiastic nurses that, especially in my organization, sign up for the review course, and then they're very crestfallen when I have to say, well, it's great that you're here and you're going to get some good tips on test taking and expand your knowledge, but you can't take the test yet. The organization doesn't want to set anyone up to fail. And so that 2-year window is a great time to really consolidate initial nursing education and then validate the fact that you have enough experience now to be deemed board certified as a medical surgical nurse. So those 2,000 hours also come into play. But if you're working full time, you're going to get that no problem at all. Like Alissa said, the website covers everything from eligibility all the way through the domains of nursing practice. The blueprint for the exam is shared, and it's very helpful because it can be a little overwhelming to start with when you think, what do I need to study? And the blueprint narrows down the 6 or 7 patient problem areas to focus on. And I've been teaching the review courses for many, many years now. And one of the things that I'll say to people is step out of your comfort zone, because everyone tends to study what they already know, because when they go through those practice questions, they're going to get them right. That really isn't going to help you on the exam day. You need to study those areas that you've been uncomfortable with. And so the best piece of advice I give to anyone is practice, practice, practice the questions, especially if you've been out of school for a while, you haven't looked at a multiple choice question in 100 years. It really truly is possible to answer a question correctly on an area that you've never taken care of if you look at the keywords and all the clues that are written in the question. So it's definitely a challenging exam, but it's also straightforward. And if you know your stuff, more likely you're going to be successful. The other thing that I say to people is there isn't anyone that comes to a review class that doesn't have the knowledge. What tends to get people is that test-taking environment and how overwhelming it can be. So it was really good to hear you say, Alissa, you felt comfortable in that environment and settled in and got into your groove and answered all the questions correctly. That has a huge component to the outcome, I think.
It did take reading the first couple of questions for me to recognize that these questions were not written NCLEX style, first of all, right? I think that's the worst fear is after you've been licensed for so long, the last thing you want to do is go back and take NCLEX. So it was really nice to see that they really were written as Med Surg questions. And if you had been practicing as a Med Surg nurse, you should be able to answer these questions. Exactly. I did elect to do test questions. That was the recommended website, I think, on AMSN. That's what I opted to do. Yeah. And it was actually really nice because you could elect to take like a randomized test with all of the different domains in it. And then at the end of it, it evaluated for you and told you where your weaknesses were. And then you could take focus tests in those areas. And I found that to be very helpful because I had no idea where my weaknesses were. And so it was really nice to do that and then identify it and then do practice questions in the areas that I was weaker in. Because, I want to do a good job. I'm like, I got a grant from AMSN. I have to pass. You know what I mean? So,
right. So, some facilities have those online learning systems that let you do the assessments, and then that will guide you as to where your strengths and opportunities are. The other thing, and this is not just because I teach the classes, but I really, truly think if you've been out of school for a while, you need your confidence boosted a little bit. There's no substitute for a 2-day live prep class. Now, of course, with COVID and everything, that put the halt on that. But towards the end of last year, we began to do the classes via Zoom. And typically at our conventions, we will offer a pre-convention session with the certification review course. Numbers have dwindled a little bit of late, and we were offering it every other year. And I know that obviously we didn't do it last year. So hopefully one of the faculty will be asked to offer a class before convention starts. There's something about convention, I don't know, you're relaxed and you're more receptive and you learn more and you tend to be more successful in the test. Now, once you've become certified, you need to stay certified. It is far easier to stay certified than it is to let the certification lapse and try and get it back. Alissa and Chelsea, can you share anything about your plans for recertification? Have you got a plan in place right now? Can you share with our listeners the process for recertification? Does it mean taking the test again? That's a question I always get asked. Do I have to do this test again?
No, recertification does not mean you have to take the test over again. You just have to do your continuing education. And AMSN is really good about providing opportunities. I get most of mine through the magazine that we get every month. It's a Med Surg journal. And they're like different journals about,
Yep.
a wide range of topics that are just so interesting. I've gotten my 90 already, and I'm not due to be recertified again until 2023.
But that's great, though. That's
So,
great, because those don't expire. Obviously, that will all count towards recertification.
I'm such a nerd when it comes to reading like the Med Surg journal. So I'm always engaging and looking for some new information that I can apply to practice. I just want to kind of go back to getting the initial certification with the studying portion. I studied for about 3 months before my test because I just wanted to give myself ample time to get down the content, make sure I understood everything that I wanted to review. And also, I was just really typically nervous. It'd been like 2 years. I was just two years removed from college and nervous about taking the test. So
I think that's awesome. And that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing, right? So we get a certification that's good for 5 years. And in those 5 years, we should be collecting our continuing education credits so that we can recertify without having to retest. So if we fall short, we can retest, sure. But if we have those continuing education, we should just use those to supplement and show that we have been doing what we need to. And another great place, in addition to the Med Surg Matters magazine, is Convention. There are so many continuing education credits that you can collect from Convention.
Yes.
If you go to Convention every year, I feel like you'll meet your requirement.
Get almost half of your hours if you attended every session. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing before I forget and you jog my memory is if you are back in school, semester hours count towards recertification. And I remember the year I was getting my master's, I had to do very little other continuing education because all of those academic hours translated over to continuing education hours. So there's another opportunity as well. So it's really very straightforward to maintain your certification. You just have to be a little organized and think ahead and get those hours so that you're not scrambling to get them at the end of the 5-year period. The MSNCB are very good at reminding you months and months and months ahead of your expiration so that no one should ever really be caught short. The other wonderful thing is the hours that you attain through AMSN are stored in the AMSN Pro Library system, and so they're there forever. You don't have to turn in sheets and sheets of paper anymore. It's all electronic, which is another way to keep yourself organized. And if you've done the hours through AMSN, they're already uploaded automatically and transferred. And if you have an account with AMSN, you can go onto the website and you can check your status at any given point to see where you're at with the hours.
One thing I want to mention about another way you can get continuing education hours, I think, is through precepting. I want to say that precepting is one of the ways you can get.
You might be right, actually. You might be right.
I think that sounds vaguely familiar to me, but I think precepting is one of the ways that you can get those continuing education credits.
So how did you ladies both feel when you got certified? Everyone thinks the be all and end all is passing NCLEX, but there's more, right?
I felt super accomplished. So shout out to Mandisa Anderson, who was now our nursing education coordinator. But back before even she took that position, she was the first nurse to get certified. The first nurse to get certified with a CMSRN on our unit, and it kind of just spread like wildfire from her. And so I think we have like up to 6 or 7 now that have their CMSRN. So shout out to her for starting that trend. I really felt like it took my nursing game to the next level.
I also felt really accomplished. I was very proud of myself. It was one of those things where I was like, why didn't I do this sooner? When I was a bedside nurse, I did have a certification in trauma. I was on an ortho trauma unit, but it was not a certification that was easy to renew. Unfortunately, we didn't offer renewal classes. It was something that was very easy to just let go. It wasn't a certification recognized by ANCC or anyone like that. There wasn't the culture, the unit culture, right, where I did all my bedside nursing didn't really encourage or promote certification. So it wasn't until I went and became a unit educator where I understood the power of certification because they had a lot of certified nurses there. And then I started working with AMSN. It was actually the unit manager there who signed me up. She's like, you need to have this as a resource to be our educator too. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, you're right. I do. And seriously, like the influence was so amazing. So I wish I had done it sooner. I'm really proud to have done it now. And I like being a role model, right? The other educators that I mentor are Med Surg educators. And so showing them like, no, we really should be certified in our specialty. It makes me very proud.
Quite rightly. We're very bad at celebrating ourselves. And a lot of facilities now, of course, look at the percentage of certified nurses across the board. If they are looking for magnet status and other recognitions. So certification is definitely recognized for its worth in many facilities across the country, not just to do it just because. The other nice thing with the Med Surg certification is that Med Surg is everywhere. So unlike your trauma certification, people will not struggle to find the hours because Med Surg is global. That's another thing. After the effort and the investment in becoming certified, some people then have a challenge maintaining those super special certifications. But Med Surg is indeed a specialty certification, but it's a global one. And so that's reassuring as well. After you've put all your time and effort into getting certified, keeping certified is not that difficult, really. It really isn't. With every article that you might read, Chelsea talked about the articles for continuing education, you're continuing your learning and you continue to share that and you continue to give back. And in turn, that then I think motivates people to think, well, if she can do it, I'm going to do it. Let me get that certification. Let me get that pin. Let me get that certificate. As everyone is listening knows, you just don't stop learning the day you pass boards. It has to be continued and it has to be meaningful. And so if you find your specialty like Med Surg and that's your focus, then the learning is not a challenge.
Agreed. We need to start educating that there are specialties in nursing, okay? Because people don't realize that. And a lot of doctors that I come into contact with don't realize that. And that, yes, you can be certified in your specialty. Nurses can be certified in their specialty. And we all don't know the same thing. And that nursing isn't just one thing. We are many things. So I think it's important to educate the public that your nurse probably has a degree and is probably also certified in their specialty.
For me, it was a real confidence booster. I got my Med Surg certification when people didn't even know there was a certification in Med Surg. And I did not have my bachelor's degree by then. And so it was a real confidence booster for me because I never thought that I was smart enough to do a BSN. I was very intimidated by the whole education process when I first moved to the United States. And so to become certified was a real aha moment for me because I thought, well, if I can pass this exam, then maybe I can venture into this advanced degrees, advanced practice. And so from there, that triggered my BSN, and then the BSN triggered my MSN, and now I'm doing my doctorate. So it's very much a confidence booster for many people. It certainly was for me, definitely. And I really, truly am proud to say I'm certified as a Med Surg nurse. We are a specialty. Just because we're not ICU or ER or any of those other people, we are a specialty. And we have to really promote that.
Yeah, I was going to say the thing that's unique about it is that you can take our Med Surg specialty and apply our skills in the ER and in the ICU, and right? Because there is a commonality amongst the Med Surg specialty that really does reach everywhere else. And I think that's why it is the ultimate specialty.
I always tell a funny story when I'm doing the review courses, and no disrespect to any of our ICU nurses out there that might be listening, but I always talk about floating, and you float an ICU nurse to Med Surg and they just don't know what to do because these patients talk to them and they get admitted and discharged and they want things,
And they get out of bed by themselves.
They get out of bed,
And they have complex behavioral issues.
They
and they can talk.
Have behavioral issues.
Well, guys, it looks like we're all out of time. Just some final words of encouragement. Please, please, please get certified. If you have any questions, you can follow us on Twitter. You can Google the AMSN website. We're on LinkedIn. I think are we on Instagram, guys?
Yeah, AMSN is on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and now, obviously go to the AMSN website, but there are tons of resources. You can send us a message on Twitter. You can send us a message through all of those platforms. Also, you can follow me at Parker Chelsea RN on Twitter if you have any questions about the Med Surg Moments podcast. And also be sure to follow the AMSN Twitter as well.
We look forward to connecting with you all on our next episode of Med Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. Send us your questions, topic ideas, and feedback via our official Med Surg Moments email address, amsnpod@amsn.org. That's amsnpod@amsn.org. I'd also like to remind you to become a member or renew your membership at www.amsn.org. You'll receive lots of cool benefits and perks, such as discounted pricing on annual convention and continuing education.
We encourage you to help us spread the word and subscribe to the Med Surg Moments podcast via your smartphone podcast app to receive notifications of future episodes. Please be sure to leave us a review, tell us how we're doing, and recommend Med Surg Moments wherever you get your podcasts to help us reach even more listeners. I also invite you to join the conversation by sharing your ideas and questions on AMSN's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter pages. And don't forget to add hashtag MedSurgMoments to your post. Simply enter AMSN in the search field on any of these social media platforms to connect with us.
The content within the Med Surg Moments podcast represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-hosts and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses. Until next time, I'm Chelsea.
I'm Alissa.
And I'm Caroline. And always remember, Med Surg Moments is a moment in our lives, a moment in our Med Surg careers that make a huge difference.